Hey guys, what is up? My name is Karen, aka cakedbybabyk, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking all about my foundation routine. I'm also going to throw in some tips and tricks for prepping your skin before foundation so it gets the absolute best coverage and wear time out of whatever foundation you're wearing. And I'm going to talk about primers, tools I use like sponges, brushes, etc, etc. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. So before any foundation application, I moisturize my skin and I take care of it and I prep it a little bit. So what I like to do is I like to go in with my Pixi Glow Tonic, and this is just a chemical exfoliant, and I know that sounds really harsh, but it's actually pretty gentle. I just take it on a cotton pad. I get these big packs of cotton puffs from Daiso, and if you guys don't know what Daiso is, it's just like a Japanese dollar store. It's $1 for this huge pack. There's 150 cotton pads in here, and I'll just take a little bit on there. I will rub it all over my face, and this really helps to not only gently exfoliate, but also to get any of the dirt off of your skin. I use this even after I wash my face, and sometimes there'll still be leftover makeup on the pad, and it's just crazy how much your hands don't do. So it's great to have this on hand or any other toner. After that, I like to go in with a moisturizer. Right now I'm on Neutrogena Hydroboost Water Gel Cream, and this is for the extra dry skin. I was on the original formula before for normal skin, and I like that one a lot, but as we're getting into the colder winter months, my skin is getting a lot more dry, so I find that this one is really helpful because it is for extra dry skin, and I find it to be a lot more nourishing and hydrating for the skin. Of course, if you have oily skin like me, I have an oily T-zone and I have dry skin everywhere else, I'm going to concentrate this more on my cheeks and the areas I do get more dry, and I'm just going to take whatever's left over and just moisturize the T-zone. Of course, you want to moisturize the areas where you get oily, because if they don't get proper hydration, that's what makes you super oily. Your pores don't get that natural hydration and that oil. Your pores are gonna overcompensate, and that's what makes you super oily. So don't forget to moisturize your entire face, no matter if you're oily, dry, whatever. Now I'm going to talk about primers, and first I love to go in with a primer water. This is my favorite primer water. This is the one from Smashbox, and it's the Photo Finish Primer Water. I've gone through so many of these over the years, but it also takes me a really long time to go through them. But we're just gonna spray this over. I just find that it's super hydrating, and it also helps my makeup last a lot longer if I hydrate my face well and I wear a primer. And now we're gonna go into the actual primer. So I have a couple of different options. For my skin right now, I am really loving the Becca First Light Priming Filter. Hooray, I got the name correct. If you guys have been watching my videos, you know that I never say that name correctly. Anyways, this is what I've been loving. I've used so much of it already. It's like down to here. I really love the Becca primers for hydration, and these two have a very, very light sheen of like dewiness and glow. So if I'm wearing like a more sheer foundation that's going to shine through in like a really nice way, it just makes your skin look super healthy. I love hydrating primers. If you have dry skin, you're going to want to hydrate your skin well in addition to your moisturizer. So I really love these two. These are a little bit pricey, but I got mine on sale, so look out for the sales. Another type of primer there is a more dimethicone type, and this Smashbox one worked for me for a really long time. Dimethicone is really good for filling in your fine lines in your pores. I also like this for dry skin. If I wear this in the T-zone though, and I have a foundation that doesn't stay put, meaning that if it's oily, it breaks apart or it comes off. While I do love this so much, with some foundations, it does not mix well, and I'll tell you why. It's because this portion of my face, the T-zone, gets so oily, and if I put it on there, because it's more silicone-y and dimethicone-y, it will make my foundation slip and slide right off my face. So if you are more oily, I would say to swing away from dimethicone primers and pick up a more hydrating primer or an oil-free primer. Also, if you cannot afford the Smashbox primer, which is one of my favorites, but let's admit it is a bit pricey, I have a couple alternatives for you. e.l.f. has a great line of primers. I have the Tone Adjusting Face Primer, and honestly, it works the exact same. Also, if you don't have an e.l.f. store around you or you don't want to order online, Trader Joe's also has a primer, and technically it's a facial serum, but honestly, it works better as a primer. It has dimethicone in it, so it has that same feel, that same like jelly-ish feel. So I really find that these two work very, very similarly. I also have a review on Trader Joe's skincare products that I will link down below. I talk about this more in depth in that video, so go check it out. And lastly, I have this primer from Hailey's Beauty, and this one is very interesting in the fact that it's kind of like a mix between the hydrating and the more silicone primers. It has that dimethicone feel, but it's not as thick as the ones that I've talked about before. It's, like I said, it's kind of like a crossover between like these two types of primers, and I find that it works really well on my skin, and especially on my T-zone where I do get oily. So I would really recommend this Hailey's primer if anybody wants to try it. I know I did a review on Hailey's foundation and I really loved that product. I'll link it down below if you guys want to watch that, but I swear this primer, it's so different, but it does wonders. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the application onto my face. So I'm just going to take my Becca primer, and I just like to pump it on the back of my hand and just apply that with my fingers. Make sure you have clean hands and a clean face when doing this. So you don't want to mix in all those oils and whatever germs are on your hand onto your face, because that is when it starts to seep into your skin and your skin starts to have problems. Some people like to use a brush for their primer, and that's totally fine as long as you are allowing it to sink in. What I like to do when I'm doing a full face, but I didn't do it today, is I like to apply the primer first and then go in and do my brows and my eyes and then come back to the face just to let the primer sink into your skin and absorb a little bit more. So we are going to go in with my foundation. I normally love to use sponges for my foundation application, and right now I really love either the Sonia Kashuk makeup sponge. It is huge. Sorry, it's dirty. We're not using this today, but when you wet it, it gets so big. That's what she said. And literally it takes like 2 seconds to do your foundation, and I really love it. But today, since this one is kind of dirty, I didn't want to show it too much. We are using the Morphe Brushes Highlight and Contour Sponge. I really love this one as well. It is super soft, super fluffy, and only $7. If we're talking about stick foundations specifically, I really love this brush, or any foundation brush that you have, honestly, will work better with stick foundations. Just because stick is already so sheer, you don't want to use a makeup sponge to absorb all that product. You're going to want to use a brush instead. So this one is the Sigma 3D HD Kabuki brush. It has 2 slanted sides to really get into the crevices of your face, and it's very, very densely packed, so it's not going to absorb much product if you are using a liquid foundation. So I really love it for just buffing it out. It blends beautifully. I do have some foundations where it will show streaks from brushes, which is why I like using the sponge usually, because it works universally. But now we're going to go into the application. I'm just going to stop talking, and I'm actually going to carve out my brows a little bit before, because I don't want to get foundation all up in the work that I just did. So we're going to carve out the tops of our brows right now. So I'm just going to pump a little bit on the back of my hand again, and I'm taking a concealer brush from Le Beauty Swell. I will link their brush set down below. I've talked about them so many times. Absolutely love their brushes. So I'm just going to take this on the back of the brush and on my hand, and we're just going to carve out the brow. I know a lot of people do this with their concealers, and I used to do that, but since I have like highlighting shades for my concealers, I found that I usually had like a white like halo around my brows, which looked kind of weird. So now I just use my regular foundation shade so it looks more cohesive. And I know my brows look a little bit dark and crazy today, but that's because I'm taking pictures for Instagram, and I always do my brows a little bit darker when I take my pictures for the gram, which is another thing that I wanted to do is a video on how to do Instagram type makeup, stuff that's very, very dramatic and blown out, and stuff that will get you noticed more, and just like little tips and tricks. So if you're interested in that, comment down below and like this video, because I would love to share my knowledge with y'all. We are going to continue to pump a little bit more on the back of the hand. And what I like to do is I like to apply this with my fingers. I know some people like to do like straight sponge into the product and then dab it in. I personally don't like to do that because I find that my sponge gets dirty a lot faster because you are directly pushing the foundation into your sponge. So I just like to use my fingers and then just blend it out. Do you guys like that sound? That pouncing sound? Honestly, when I'm editing my footage and I use like a foundation sponge, I can hear the sound and I'm just like cringe. And you notice that I'm not like swiping it down or anything, I'm just gently like dabbing it in. And I especially have to be careful with what I do on my nose because, like I said, I am oily there. So usually whenever I use a sponge, I have to stay super like still and not drag it around because it is super noticeable on my nose. And what I like to do is I like to take my hair and just pull it back gently so we don't get our foundation in there too much. Foundation's gonna get in there for sure, but this is just a way to kind of make sure it doesn't get all up in there, you know? And here you can kind of see I am dragging it a little bit. That's because I don't want to basically dab the foundation into my hairline. And I have some areas that are a little bit sparse. So I'm just gonna go in and add a little bit more foundation there. These areas are like the most neglected, I feel, for me at least, because you always focus on your forehead and your cheeks and your nose, but then the sides of your face I feel like don't get enough coverage as the rest of your face, so we're just giving a little bit extra love. Also like between the eyebrow and your hairline as well. You don't want to forget that part. Also, don't be afraid to go into the sides of your nose as well. And what I like to do is I like to take either the point or the flat side of the sponge and just go into the crevices of the nose. I feel like those areas are neglected as well. So if you want more coverage, this is the point where you want to layer more foundation on top. I'm happy with the coverage. I mean, I'm not going anywhere after this, so I'm gonna leave it as is. And now we are going to do our concealer. I'm using my Wet n Wild Photo Finish concealer. This is, or no, not Photo Finish, Photo Focus. I always get those two mixed up because Smashbox is Photo Finish and then Wet n Wild is Photo Focus. So we are using the shade Light Medium Beige, and this is a lighter color than the rest of my face. So we're going to highlight with it. And you absolutely don't need to highlight if you like your face to be one color. I really just love the dimension that it gives, so I use a lighter shade. We're gonna go underneath our eyes. And I like to highlight the chin a little bit, down the bridge of the nose, just because I have a super, super flat nose and I love to trick people into thinking that it's higher than it is. And we're also going to highlight the forehead. I don't like to put too much on the forehead, just like that small amount right there, because what you blend extends. This is a tip that I learned from Wayne Goss. If you guys don't watch his videos, you need to, because he is an amazing makeup artist who's been working for years in the industry, and he is so generous as to share his tips with the community. So he says that what you blend extends, meaning that you shouldn't have to put that much product down on your face, especially in terms of concealer, because nowadays people are like globbing concealer on, but in reality you don't need that because what you put down extends. And he even just puts like concealer down like this inner part of the face, and he can utilize that to bring it all the way out here. So I like to use a little bit more than he does, and I like to put it all over the under eye just because I have really dark circles. But as you can see, like I didn't even put any over here, and you can see how much it extends back. And I really love the Morphe sponge because it has the flat side, so I can just go into the sides of the nose and kind of already put out that contour that I'm gonna put down later. And I really love it for like stamping concealer against my eyeshadow to create like a really nice shape like I did right here. Just gonna blend out that nose highlight, and then we're just gonna blend out the forehead. And if you are seeing harsh edges between any of the light and the darker parts of your face, you can just always go in with the side that you used for the foundation and just kind of blend everything together. I especially like doing this on the forehead area because that's the part like it's the most light and you see it more clearly, any lines of demarcation. So I just like to go in with the foundation side. Okay, so now it is one of the most important parts of the foundation routine. We are setting the face. So this is the ColourPop No Filter Loose Setting Powder in the shade Banana. If you guys have been watching my videos for like the past couple months, you know that this has been my tried and true. So we are going to dip that sponge on the flat side into the powder right here. And I'm going to tap off the excess. And then what I do is I like to go underneath the eyes because that's where it gets the most creasing. And we're just going to stipple this on the face. I don't like to drag it anywhere just because I feel like that doesn't really get into like the crevices of my face that well. So we're just layering this. I like to do like 2 light layers underneath the eyes. And I like to do the middle of the forehead, basically where we lay down that concealer, just because there is slightly more product there. And I do get oily in that area the most. So wherever you get oily, I would suggest that you put slightly more powder down. I also do my chin. And when you do your chin, you're gonna wanna do this so you can get it all up in there, because if you just do it like this, you're just getting like the surface level. If you do this, you're getting like every crevice. I also like to do my nose, so the parts where we highlighted. And I also like to do my smile lines. If you watch any of my foundation reviews, you know that I always set and bake my smile lines because that is where my foundation loves to crease. So I like to give a little bit of extra coverage and extra staying power there. And now that we have the main portions baking and setting, I'm gonna go in a little bit more with the powder, and we are going to set underneath right here. You might see a lot of people just drag it along. I don't do that. I like to stipple it again. And I don't like to have a definite line. I find that this method works for me because I've tried the dragging the line thing across the cheekbones, and when I go to contour or bronze my face, because you're setting down powder in like a straight line, your bronzer and your contour is going to naturally stick to the places where you didn't set. So if you have a line right here, you're gonna see a line where you contoured and where you set the face. So it's just going to be one stiff line. I personally like my contour and my bronzer to be more natural, so I don't really like that whole line look. I mean, if it works for you, great, but this is just how I do it. And now we're looking a little ghostly. I swear the exposure is up on my camera. I don't look this white in person, don't worry. We are taking our Butter Bronzer and an angled brush from the Beauty Soir. This is actually a blush brush, but I really like angled brushes for contouring and bronzing just because it hugs the sides of your face and your cheekbones so nicely. So we are going to go into the areas where we didn't set. If you guys can see, it has like that true foundation color right there. And we are just going to lay down this bronzer. Just gonna bring some color back into the face. See how much better that looks already, even with my 4 tons of powder on my face. And you will notice that I didn't set the edges of my forehead either, because we are going to keep laying down that bronzer. And because we didn't set the face, the bronzer is going to stick to your foundation, thus making it last longer. So make sure to get all the way up into the hairline. You don't want to see any lines of demarcation that stop before the hairline, because that's just like embarrassing. Okay, and now we are going to take the same brush, and I just like to run it gently along the sides of my nose for like a very, very light contour look. I don't really contour my nose too technically, just because, I don't know, I don't really like the shape of my nose. I feel like it's too flat, but if I contour, I feel like it looks ridiculous, just because I haven't done it a lot and I feel like I'm doing it wrong. So I just like to go in lightly, and anything left over we're gonna bring down on the jawline. Okay, so now that we are done baking, I feel like my sweat coming through on my nose. We are going to dust it off with a flat stippling brush. This is from a brush set from Beige. And we're just going to blend this into the skin. If you feel like you need more powder, dip it into a little bit of more powder to just kind of like dust it off and add that extra coverage. And once you dust off, you might see that your bronzer is a little uneven like mine. So we're just gonna go in very lightly and just bronze it up a little bit more. So now that we've got everything basically done, we are going to do the rest of my eyes and then pop on a little bit of highlight, maybe a lip, and then I will be right back to set the rest all in place. Okay, so I am back with my full face. I have my highlight on. If you're wondering, this is the Pixi by Petra Glowy Gossamer Duo in the shade Delicate Dew. These are one of my favorite drugstore highlighters. They make your skin look so like wet and dewy, and I'm totally here for it. So I also popped on some lashes. These are the Ardell Studio Effects in the style 231. Also, my lip is ColourPop Fudg'd Gloss. So now we have our whole face done. We can set the face for maximum wear. I am taking my Morphe Prep and Set. This is their continuous setting mist, which I absolutely love. It smells so good and it feels so amazing when you spray it on your skin. I find that it actually does prolong my makeup wear. I know Urban Decay has a really great setting spray. A lot of companies have a setting spray, so they're not hard to find or anything, but this I think is a crucial step in locking your makeup into place. And also what you're doing with a setting spray is you are kind of melting everything into the skin. So since we packed on a lot of powder when we baked, my face does look a little bit powdery, especially on my chin and on my forehead. We're going to sink it into the skin and make it look a little bit more like skin. So I'm just going to shake this up and we're just gonna spray it on the face. Whew. That feels so nice. And basically that is it, guys. So if you are going out on the town, you are going to a party, what have you, what you want to do if you know that your foundation rubs off a lot and you start to get a little bit oily, what you're gonna do is you're actually going to take a powder compact with you. I have a lot of compact powders that I love. Rimmel has a great one that is the Stay Matte, I believe. And Catrice has a Prime and Fine translucent setting powder. That one is amazing. That one keeps me looking matte all day long. And what you're gonna do is just stick it into your purse, have like a little puff pad that you can blot onto your skin. You're never going to want to rub on your skin. If you're oily, then it might kind of smear everything. You're just gonna want to pat. Also, life hack, if you're oily like me and you don't have blotting sheets, go to a bathroom and use the seat covers. I am not kidding you. They are the exact same thing. I do it all the time because I never want to spend money on blotting sheets. So I will literally just go into a public bathroom, just take the toilet seat cover and then just like blot your face. You will be surprised how much oil it will pick up. So trust me on that. And I think that is it for my foundation routine and my tips on how to stay fresh throughout the entire day. So that is it for this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, all that good, and I will see you guys in my next one.